Hey guys, welcome to this channel. The series starts off with Jinx, who had just exploded the building where the counselors were having a meeting. Jace lifted Mel out of the ruins, after which, he proceeded to help the others also. They looked around and saw many dead while the others were badly injured. It was a tragic day for the people of Peltover. Vi watched from a distance as they carried the coffins away, and this left her in a state of utter dismay. The surviving counselors gathered together to discuss how best to handle the unforeseen mayhem that befell them. Counselor Salo suggested they flood the Undercity with enforcers armed with hex tech, but Officer Kiraman and Mel thought it best to use their division against them. They pinned the attack on Jinx, and further posed a reward too substantial for the rest to ignore. After much deliberation, Mel finally agreed to endorse the invasion, to make a unified front. She particularly told Salo that they have an ethos, so using Hextech must be a final resort when they have no other option, and the entire council agreed, including Salo, who was left with no choice. Caitlyn went to her room and was reading the letters been posted to her, when her father walked in to join her. On spur of moment, he entrusted the Kiraman key to her, and although she felt she didn't deserve it, but he tells her that her mum wanted her to have it, and it is her legacy now. As this was happening, Caitlyn's dad noticed Vi was listening to their conversation, and this aggravated him. Caitlyn stepped out almost immediately to meet with Vi, and as she saw her, they hugged themselves passionately. Vi told her that she now believes Powder is gone, and she can make this all right, if only Caitlyn could get Jace to fix her gauntlets. Caitlyn disagreed with her proposal, as she didn't want to make any other rash decisions. She further told Vi that they're sending all the enforcers after Jinx, and she's going with them. Few minutes later, Kate gave Vi the Peltover officer badge and tried to convince her to match together with them, but Vi refused the offer since they were the same people that killed her parents, after which she walked away in agony. Vi sat down in her lonesome under the rain, and out of frustration, she threw a bottle at an unknown man. The man calmly moved towards her and sat close to her, after which he offered her a drink. Meanwhile, Jace was lost in thoughts trying to figure out how to fully bring Victor back to life, as his body was decapitated from the blast, and immersed in the hex core. Mel tried her best to comfort him, and also tells him about the council's plan of finding Jinx. Caitlyn was seated in her garden reminiscing about everything that had happened. Few minutes later, she started fantasizing about Jinx and killing her, but Jace woke her from her fantasy. Kate told Jace of the images that keeps on popping in her head. First, it was her mother who died in the blast. Secondly, Jinx who initiated the blast, and then lastly, Vi who refused to join the Peanut Patrol. Vi was drowning herself with booze, and was fuming at Caitlyn, who asked her to take a badge. Suddenly, Vi got approached by Nolan Maddie, a junior officer, and her subordinate. Nolan told Vi that she's kind of a legend at the station, then she eagerly asked if it's true that she went after Silco alone, even though the council were against her. After the talk, she stretched out a hand of gratitude towards her, after which the city bell rang profusely. The whole city gathered together after hearing the glaring bells. Vi together with the unknown man were present at the gathering. Mel took to the podium and gave her speech. Mel's speech was centered on the recent calamity that engrieved the whole city, but as the speech was ongoing, Vi noticed a strange man bearing an Undercity tattoo posed as a guard. She followed him closely, but as she was getting closer, the other guards stopped her. The man eventually got to the podium where Mel was still speaking. He knocked her down, after which he shot a flare into the sky and the rest of his troops engaged. As this was happening, Jace was also being attacked and almost got killed. An airship from the Undercity approached the toppers, then warriors wearing indestructible suits joined the massacre. Officer Nolan garnered the counselors she could, but as she attempted to drive off, they were intercepted and the vehicle tumbled. One of the Undercity warriors eventually caught up with Jace and sliced him in the back. Jace tried to crawl his way out, but the enemy caught up to him. Vi blasted her with Vander's hammer right before she could kill Jace. Caitlyn, Officer Nolan and the counselors were evenly surrounded, but out of the blue, Mel's mum, Ambessa, together with her army terminated the Undercity's warriors. After the tragic incident, pain and anguish was hovering all over the city. Caitlyn was infuriated that the Undercity would dare to stage an attack during a memorial. Vi tried to convince Kate to call off the invasion, but she was too pissed to let that happen. Caitlyn went to her chambers and slotted in the Kiraman key, after which she saw all the history and informations regarding her family's lineage. Counselor Salo took this opportunity to emphasize the need to use hex tech to defend Peltover. On spur of moment, Caitlyn barged into their enclosed council meeting and told them of her plans to lead a strike team to locate Jinx, dismantle Shimmer and kill anyone loyal to Silco. She also intends on achieving this using hex-tech-made weapons. Vi ended up taking up the badge and joining the assault team. Meanwhile, Victor was still in a coma embedded in the hex core. Silco and his most trusted warriors all went down the drain or died one after another, leaving Jinx as the only sole survivor. Jinx was walking in her lonesome when she stumbled upon a little girl who was being chased by goons who wanted to kill her, but Jinx came to her rescue by shooting them all down. Wanted posters of Jinx were on the wall. Jinx told the little girl to reach out to her if she ever needs a family or society to associate with. Thereafter, she ran after Jinx. Hinot, one of Silco's trusted warrior, was plotting a takeover to become the leader of Silco troop. They arrived at the Grey, and one of the henchmen noticed a woman whimpering in pain, after which he called Hinot attention to the situation. Hinot, out of fear, sent one of them to check it out. Meanwhile, Sevica called together the leaders of the Turfs in John. She tells them to stop fighting each other and join their forces together, since Topside is the real enemy. Hinot was also present there, and he suggested they handed Jinx to the Topsides instead of joining forces. Sevica went to her room frustrated, since her plan didn't work out as she thought it would, but then she was startled when she hears Jinx. Sevica was going to attack Jinx on sight, but eventually calmed down, after realizing Jinx didn't come to kill her. She expressed her frustration to Jinx and tells her everything they worked for is gone and they would watch it all burn. Jinx left Sevica's abode, not knowing Hinot and his henchmen have been observing from a distance. Meanwhile, Victor heard someone call out his name and he finally woke up. He broke out of the hex core which covered his entire body except his face. He called out to Jace from behind. Jace was surprised and happy to see Victor finally awake. He hugged him passionately and further convinced him to stay so they can continue living together, but Victor was adamant on leaving and Jace couldn't seem to stop him no matter how hard he tried. The scene switches to Echo with various Topsiders in a location safe from John's invasion. They were besieged with a problem, as the tree sustaining them has started to wither. Professor Ermerdinger sneaked Echo into his former lab so they could find a solution to the problem. On entering the lab, Jace almost killed them thinking they were intruders. Ermerdinger apologized for the intrusion, then he introduced Echo to Jace as his new pupil afterwards. Jace observed the smaple of the leaf Ermerdinger brought to him, and he discovered it has the same pattern with the hex core. Ermerdinger also noticed that Victor was also gone. Meanwhile, Victor made his way to the Undercity where the people are badly plagued. He hears a voice calling from the shadows and followed. Jinx is seen creating a mass weapon, but at that moment, her lair was infiltrated by Caitlyn, Vi, and the others of the council enforcers. Jinx attempted to shoot at Vi but her judgment was clouded by her emotions, and her tears fell on Vi's armor which drew her attention. Jinx tried her best to evade them, as she kept on crawling out of sight, then she put on the lights to distract them, while she escaped through the back, but she was bizarrely choking on the gas they invaded with. She tried to run away, but she was violently intercepted by one of Hinot's henchmen. They pinned her to the wall and that was when Hinot showed up from the dark. Jinx wasn't startled at all, as she took control of the situation. She tells Hinot that she was the one who killed Silco and anyone who gets close to her ends up dying. This statement ultimately frightened Hinot, and he slowly backed down. At that moment, Sevica came to her rescue. She shot continuously at Hinot, which gave Jinx enough time to escape their grasp. Jinx gave Sevica the new arm she was building, and Sevica engaged in a heated battle with Hinot, and it was a battle of the ages, but with the aid of her newly furnished arm, she was able to defeat Hinot easily and completely destroy him. Jinx and her newly found disciple were watching from a distance as the fight was going. Victor kept on following the voice calling out to him, but he was surrounded by commoners who attempted to rub him. On seeing Victor up front, he became ultimately scared, but Victor wasn't pissed at him. Victor used the hex core generated from his body to cure all the impurities of the commoner and healed him completely. On seeing this miracle, the other commoners knelt down to him so they could be cured, and just at that moment, he envisioned Sky to be the voice that has been calling out to him.